All right, hopefully this is working. Let's see if is it following me yet? No, this is silly. Okay. One of these days, I will get this thing right. All right. So, back by popular demand or marginal interest, I did these things for years, where I just jumped in the car and spoke about real estate stuff. And everyone right now is freaked out about tariffs in the real estate market and what's going to happen, and a lot of uncertainty. And I get it, right? Trump, part of the problem with Trump is he talks a lot of trash. I mean, let's just be honest, talks a lot of trash, but he really just uses most of it as a bargaining chip. When you look at the history of tariffs, it takes years. Well, there's this dude rolling around picking up junk. It takes years, 4, 6, 10 years to really change human behavior. I mean, one of the things I think is hilarious, I was listening to Justin Trudeau this morning, and he was implementing some tariffs or talking about implementing some tariffs, and then he came out and said, well, we're going to give 21 days for suppliers to prepare themselves for the tariffs, which I thought was pretty funny, because it's going to take more than 21 days for any business to really get ready for any sort of big change in the supply chain. So they really don't have any clue what they're doing. So I think their hope is this is all going to fade to the side here over the next couple of months. Although I don't even know if they'll last that long. The United States, aside, Canadian goods, we buy a lot of energy from there. We buy a lot of wood, so we may see some increases in lumber prices. For those of you who are doing a lot of framing right now and new construction, we may see an increase in price there. With regards to Mexico, we're bringing our first batch of tequila over in February, in like literally 2 weeks. So we're going to see a price increase there, possibly. I don't know. They're effective, I believe, today. So I really think it's just a negotiating tactic. Now, the question for the Trump administration is, hey, we're trying to stop the flow of fentanyl from these countries supporting fentanyl trade in the United States. And I'm like, well, how do you measure that? Do people turn in their illegal fentanyl license? Do fentanyl facilities get closed? I mean, what's the metric? I mean, how do you measure that exactly? Especially with regards to the Border Patrol issues. I mean, I don't know if you guys are following what's going on in the southern border, but there ain't nobody crossing compared to, I mean, it's like a 97% reduction. And then the fact that the Trump administration's talking about sending folks to Gitmo, it's probably got a lot of these folks crossing illegally pretty scared. So it is going to be interesting. But market's going to do some crazy stuff over the next week or two or couple of weeks. The market, I mean, like the stock market, capital markets. The bond market's really been quite quiet. I think they're at 4 and some change. It's on the 10-year. It's been kind of interesting. But I wouldn't change your big investment outlooks based off these tariffs and threats of tariffs and little bitty trade wars and all that nonsense. I just, if you're a real estate guy or gal, you keep plugging along. What's going to happen to interest rate? Well, let me put it to you this way. If you really study housing, a deterioration in the greater economy is actually good for housing because it lowers rates. Just about every single time, that's what happens. Folks are worried about a recession. We have 165 million Americans working right now. This looks very similar to COVID, where if things were to get ugly, we go into a recession. I think they'll immediately respond with reducing rates. We'll see. Powell's term, I think, ends in 2026, so it's going to take a little while to see how this pans out. But of course, all the news media is screaming and yelling right now about a lot of the stuff that Trump is doing. But when you look at it in the broader economy, I really don't see much of an impact. I just don't. Logan Motoshami brought up this morning, he said, we've had massive deportations in the past, and builders have still been able to build. It hasn't been that big of an issue. So, in fact, my joke with a lot of folks is, and actually I got into it with Mike Simonson over at Altos Research on X for a little bit when he said, "Oh, you guys think prices are high now? Wait till they start deporting illegal aliens." And I said, "Hey, bud. First of all, they're going to deport all the bad guys first, all the guys that have criminal records and all that." And I said, "Second, you would be surprised that you need skilled labor. You just don't need a bag of meat and tell them to go in there and throw up some drywall. That's not how it works. You need skilled plumbing, electrical, trim. You need skilled roofers." Now, are there some guys on those crews that are illegal? I'm sure there are. But you still need the skilled guys to do the work. I mean, take any of these millennial homeowners or zennials and give them a couple sheets of drywall and a hammer and a screwdriver, and they're not going to know what to do. So this whole idea that you can just magically know how to build a house simply because you're an illegal from south of the border it actually reeks of some pretty racist undertones. But I didn't bring that up in that X post. But I was like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, just because you're Hispanic, you come across the border doesn't mean you can build a house. In fact, you ought to look at the houses that are down there. They're very different than what we build here in the United States. Kind of like Tex-Mex. Like, just because you're Hispanic doesn't make you make Tex-Mex food. They're two different things. So anyways, it was really interesting to read some of that stuff. But I don't think there's a whole lot to get worked up over here. I mean, it's Trump talking trash to get what he wants, to get a win, to slow down the border, the immigration issue, which has damn near stopped in a span of 2 weeks. It's been kind of wild to watch. But in any case, guys, I'm going to do these every day like I used to, hopefully with the new camera. For whatever reason, I forgot the microphone. So I have the microphone. Hopefully it sounds good. As always, I appreciate it. Oh, Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. at the Cannon. If you guys know where the Cannon is at, it's Brittmore and I-10. Come by the Cannon. And we're doing real estate stuff there. So this week I'm talking about what happens when syndications go bad, what happens when you get in lawsuits, what happens when you fill out all those legal docs, and what do they really mean at the end of the day, and what happens when it all goes wrong, and what can you do if you're a GP or an LP to make sure it doesn't get worse. Thanks for watching.